So the next update is one that I think is so important for businesses. Instagram is all about shares now. Was an update that actually came from Adam Mosseri, who did a Q&A video. For those of you that don't know, he's the chief of Instagram. He's definitely someone to follow on Instagram because he shares so many great tips and insights from what they're currently building in Instagram right now. But he has recently reiterated that you should be focused on how to make your content more share worthy. Shares are the most important feature or factor when it comes to engagement that the algorithm is ranking content for. So let's hear a little bit more about what he said in a video recently.
One of the most important signals we use in ranking is sends per reach. So out of all the people who saw your reel or your photo, how many of them sent it to a friend in a DM? At Instagram, we're trying to be a place where people can be creative, but in a way that brings people together. We want not only to be a place where you passively consume content, but where you discover things you want to tell your friends about. A reel that made you laugh so hard you wanted to send it to your brother or your sister, or a soccer highlight that blew your mind and you wanted to send it to another fan, that kind of thing. So don't force it as a creator, but if you can, when you're making content, think about making content that people would want to send to a friend, to someone that they care about, and it will help you reach over time. More advice to come. Peace.
So I think that's a great thing to focus on. And almost when you're about to post something on Instagram, I would be asking myself, is this something that's likely to be shared? You do often see people as well actually calling out, save this post if you think it's going to be useful, or share this post with someone who you are wanting to go for that meal with, for example. So it is an engagement tactic that people are using to really encourage those shares. And I just think it's so important to remind yourselves now that a like is actually the lowest form of ranking that the algorithm looks to. A like really doesn't mean that that post is going to perform well. And I still get some of my clients judging the success of their posts on how many likes it got. And we need to train ourselves out of that because Instagram has changed and is no longer looking at the likes. Okay, so I also thought it was really interesting that this month Instagram updated its professional dashboard, which is the area of information you get as a business account. So if your account is a professional account, is a business one, you can head into your settings and you'll find your professional dashboard there. And within that, they have just updated the Reels best practices. So in the Reels best practices section, you can see that they are now adding a number of different pieces of advice around what works well for Reels. So let's just have a really quick look at some of these. They're saying in terms of Reels, you should be making Reels part of your routine. So they are the best way of reaching new people on Instagram. Being as relatable as possible and focusing on engagement, I would say those ones are pretty obvious. In terms of Reels creation, it's the first 3 seconds that really count. And actually, I'm hearing more and more that it's actually the first second that counts. So really making sure that that opening scene of your video is something that's going to capture people's attention. It is attention grabbing, it's well lit, it's ideally got a person in it, which is always more relatable and engaging. But how are you going to keep people watching? So you see people saying things like, wait for the reveal, or keep watching if you want to know, dot, dot, dot. Or even if you're showing a process, start with the end shot, start with, what it looks like as a dish or as a package of beautiful beauty products, and then go into how you apply them or how you cook them. Check your timing. Reels that are 30 to 60 seconds get a lot better engagement. Only use relevant hashtags. And just be aware that Adam Mosseri has said a number of times now that hashtags do not help your reach. They're more about ensuring that the right people are being suggested your content. So I'm not sure. I still see the odd post, doing well potentially because of hashtags, but I think they're such a small part of all of those different factors of what makes a good post. Try trending audio, but don't rely on just using a trending audio track as being the thing that makes your video go viral. It's not the be all and end all, but it can help. And keep it high res. Upload the highest resolution possible. People tend to engage more with high quality content on Instagram. And then a few points about engagement. Replying to comments within 7 days is the advice from Instagram. I would say ideally within an hour, but, within a couple of hours is what's expected now from a consumer. There's nothing more annoying than leaving a comment on a post, like a question, for example, and not getting a response to that for, well over 24 hours. And I have seen a lot of cases of big brands just not keeping on track of conversations. The more live you can make that engagement feel, the more, conversations you can have with people, the better reach you're going to get, the more engagement, the more relevant your brand feels. It feels like a person. People always like to engage with a personality in social media as opposed to just kind of more getting a robot answer. And that is definitely an area of growth, which I don't think many brands dedicate that much time and energy to, but can actually be the most effective way to grow is actually being there to have conversations with your community. The final one they've noted there is share everywhere at the same time. Sharing your content on Instagram at the same time as other platforms drives more consistent distribution for you. I'm not sure about that one. I wonder whether that one is a bit more aimed at those people that will put something on Instagram and then they'll put it on TikTok afterwards. Or the other way around, put it on TikTok first and then put it on Instagram. They want to see you basically sharing your content at the same time across platforms. But I think that really just comes down to your own strategy. Which are your priority platforms? Where's your biggest engagement? Where's your largest community? That should be the place where you make the announcements or post fresh content first.